Okay, now in this video here, we're going to get to the text of Romans 2, 1 to 5, and then talk about a bit of the structure of the text and see what's there. So therefore you have no excuse, O man, every one of you who judges, for in passing judgment on another, you condemn yourself, because you, the judge, practice the very same things. We know that the judgment of God rightly falls on those who practice such things. Do you suppose, O man, that you who judge those who practice such things and yet do them yourself, that you will escape the judgment of God? Or do you presume on the riches of his kindness and forbearance and patience, not knowing that God's kindness is meant to lead you to repentance? But because of your hard and impenitent heart, you are storing up wrath for yourself on the day of wrath when God's righteous judgment will be revealed. So looking at the structure of this text, you could break this up in a few different places, but I really think that we have kind of two arguments here. This first sentence is really an argument. Therefore, you have no excuse, O man, every one of you judges. Why? Because in passing judgment on another you condemn yourself. Why? Because you, the judge, practice the very same things. So all of these becauses, Paul is giving grounds, he's giving reasons for why his statements are true. And these are two arguments. So there's a because here, there's a because here. That's why I think that these kind of are two arguments that flow together. And there's this first shorter argument and then this bigger argument that explains what's going on here. So in the bigger argument, he's saying, makes an assertion, we know that the judgment of God rightly falls on those who practice such things. And then goes into two questions. So there's a question here and a question here, and they're rhetorical questions in that Paul expects us to answer them and know the answer. The answer is implicit in the way that he's asking them. Do you suppose, O man, you who judge those who practice such things, and yet do them yourself? So, man, do you suppose that you will escape the judgment of God? Well, the answer to that is Paul's implying is no. Or do you presume on the riches of his kindness and forbearance and patience, not knowing that God's kindness is meant to lead you to repentance? Are you presuming on this? The answer is, well, yes, it seems like it, but I guess this isn't as rhetorical of a question. It's saying, are you presuming on this, not knowing this thing? That God's kindness, are you presuming on his kindness but not realizing that his kindness has a purpose? It's meant to lead you to repentance, not to sit there and judge. So it's meant to lead you to repentance, not to sit there and judge. And then here's the indictment. But you can almost hear his face kind of fall as he says this. Because of your hard and impenitent, which this word impenitent is really built on the same Greek word as repentance. So it's really unrepentant, literally. But because he's like, it's saying it's supposed to lead to repentance, but because of your hard and unrepentant heart, you are storing up wrath. So because of your unrepentance and your hardness, you are storing up wrath for yourself on the day of wrath when God's righteous judgment will be revealed. So notice in these two questions the pictures of God here. So here, you're not going to escape the judgment of God. There is a firmness, a reality, a hard and forcefulness to God that has judgment. And then he comes back, but God's kindness and forbearance and patience, those things are there, and they're there for a purpose. They're meant to lead you to repentance. So side by side, we see God as just and righteous. We see his judgment there, but then we also see riches of kindness in God. And so note this sandwich structure here as well, that here we have judgment of God rightly falls, and here we have God's righteous judgment revealed. So here's God's righteous judgment, here's God's righteous judgment, and here's us somewhere in between there. And mostly it doesn't look very, very pretty. So the main point of this text, I think, is clear. The unrepentant judgers will receive the floodgates of stored up wrath when they themselves are judged justly. So the unrepentant judgers will receive the floodgates of stored up wrath when they themselves are justly judged or judged justly. And that's the main point. But implicit in this, I think, is something else there. I think is the point that there is a bit of hope in here, and that's this word repentance. There's almost a pleading in here. Don't you know God's kindness is meant to lead you to repentance? Don't you know that? Oh, but because of your hard and unrepentant heart, look what's happening to you. And in that, I think that the problem here is clearly this. This is the biggest issue of the problem in here is this hard and unrepentant heart. Because of this, you're storing up wrath. Because of this, you're judging. Because of a hard and unrepentant heart. That's kind of one of the deepest grounds in this argument. And you can see that here. It plays out in the judgingness. And all this judging comes from this hard and impenitent heart. See, a judger wants to go outwards, and Paul is saying, no, look at yourself. You're doing these same things as well, and that's evidenced in your judging. But if that's the problem, and you can see the solution here, the solution is God's kindness is meant to lead you to repentance. You're not squashed the instant that you sin. That would be righteous judgment now. Instead, no, God's going to keep storing it up, and then one day the floodgates of his wrath will be opened, and they'll be poured out on you. All that stored up wrath that you were storing up will be poured out on you. The floodgates will open, and you will be swept away in the wrath of God. But his kindness now could lead you to repentance, a turning away from the very same things. Notice that phrase too as well. Very same things. Practice such things. Who practice such things. It's just there over and over again. You're doing the same things. You are doing the things that we just talked about in verses 1:18 to 32. But again, I don't want to leave us without seeing that hope that even though we don't see them doing whoever these people are, and it might be us, even though we don't see them doing this, there's a hint that the way to be free from this is a repentance. I think that's the structure of the text. The main point is the unrepentant judgers are going to have that stored up wrath that they've been storing up all this time when they themselves are justly judged.